All right, so take 3. This is my 3rd time trying to record this because my camera over there that I normally use decided to pull focus somewhere else. So I was like, okay, well, I'll record with this camera. And then my microphone was like, no, I'm going to fill it full of crackles. And I just rebooted and tried again. And there was no crackles this time, and I think the focus is good. So let's talk a bit about polycythemia, polycythemia vera, and secondary polycythemia. The reason I want to bring this up is twofold. One, honestly, let's tag on to the boogie situation a little bit while we can. But the reason for that is actually the second part, and that's because I was recently diagnosed with polycythemia. And I can prove it. I will prove it. I'll throw up some B-roll here of my medical records to show that I really do have polycythemia. However, it is listed as something else. We'll Google that anyway. We'll show you that I do have polycythemia listed as a diagnosis in my medical records. And I'll explain why it's not listed as polycythemia in my medical records too. So, a little bit of backstory. 2016, I was hospitalized for 5 months, give or take. Started with the flu, fell apart from there, 4 medically induced comas, all kinds of, basically, after months of trying, they finally got me diagnosed with granulomatosis with polyangiitis, which is also known as Wegener's. They're trying to get away from the Wegener's name for other reasons we won't get into here. But as a result of the Wegener's is a vasculitis. It's an autoimmune condition that affects the veins, the whole system, and tries to restrict the blood vessels to cut off blood supply to all of your organs. Because you being you're the bad guy as far as the autoimmune condition is concerned. So it affected my heart, lungs, kidneys, and brain. In fact, while I was in the hospital in 2016, I was doing this thing that most of my medical team had never seen. My chest, my lungs were filling full of blood regularly. I was hemorrhaging. They were pulling up like a pint of blood out of my lungs every day for like a week. But while that was happening, I was also throwing clots in my leg. I had deep vein thrombosis, which is blood clots in the legs. Right, so they had to find this fine line of blood thinners and not blood thinners to keep my lungs clear, but also keep me from throwing more clots in my legs. It was an issue, right? So fast forward, they get me situated, they get me stable. They put an IVC filter in my chest so that if a blood clot breaks free, it won't go into my heart, lungs, and or brain, which any of those could kill me. So I've got the IVC filter for a while. I'm on the blood thinners for a while. Everything seems to have resolved. So we discontinue the warfarin, the Coumadin. They're interchangeable, and they remove the IVC filter from my body. Everything's fine, all things considered, for the last few years. Like December of 2023, I start feeling short of breath. I'm unable to have any. I've got no energy. I'm lethargic. I don't feel well. I can't, right? New Year's Eve, we're going to go out because it's New Year's Eve, and I went out to my car to get something. I come in the house, and I'm just beat. Can't catch my breath, can't do anything. Check my pulse, or not my pulse. I check with a pulse ox, I check my oxygen levels, and I'm at like 85, which is super, super low. Like we're looking for 95 or above. And I'm way below what I should be. So luckily, because of all of my respiratory issues and whatnot, I've got an oxygen condenser. I hook up, I get my O2 levels, my oxygen levels back into the 90s, and then I'm in bed for a couple of weeks before I'm convinced by my wife to go to the doctor. I see my doctor. He's like, cool, now go to the ER. They can help you better there. Spent most of January in the hospital. When I got there, the issue that I went in with was effectively, it was pneumonia. Cut and dry, it's pneumonia, whatever. But they're having to keep me on a lot of oxygen to keep my oxygen levels high because, of course, pneumonia. So my pulmonologist, he's my lung doctor, he comes in and we're just chatting. Like I've known this guy for years. We're chatting about what's going on, and I just... happenstance, I was just like, prior to this, I was having some leg pain that felt like my leg had been hanging off the bed all night, and it just hurt. Like it felt stiff, it hurt to move it, that sort of thing. Except that it went on for a couple of weeks, and he's like, oh, well, let's talk about that for a minute. So he orders imaging on my leg and my lungs, and they find more blood clots in my legs. Again, that's deep vein thrombosis, or DVT. So he's also like, I want to look at your lungs. The problem with my lungs, because of 2016, in order to get good imaging in my lungs, like my lungs look like hamburger on a good day, right? So in order to get a good look at my lungs, they have to use contrast when they do the CT scan in order to see what's going on. Well, the problem in January when he ordered that is that my kidney function, which is rated kind of by a GFR number, was low. Like it wasn't like super dangerously low, but it was low enough that they didn't feel comfortable giving me the contrast to get the imaging. Luckily, I was in the hospital most of January. So about a week later, they did my GFR test again, which is just a blood test. It's nothing major. They did the test again. It came back above like 55, and they're like, cool, you're good. Let's go do this imaging with contrast. So then they found that my lungs were full of blood clots as well. I had bilateral pulmonary embolisms, which is just both of your lungs full of blood clots. So they had to do some back and forth to figure out what the best course of action for that was going to be. And because I've got an allergy to heparin, which is kind of a blood thinner, because I've got that allergy, they can't use heparin, which they would have used kind of as the default. Luckily, I was able to use something called warfarin or Coumadin, and I've been on that since January. And I have to go in every couple of weeks. I have to check my blood to see what my INR number is. It's kind of like it's an international normalization ratio. It took me a second there, but basically, it's when you've got a condition like mine, you're looking for that number to be between like 2.5 and 3.5 or something. It depends on a number of things. That's what I'm looking for me. So I do that test every couple of weeks, and it's been good. We found a good dose for me. So here recently, because I've had an issue with blood clots more than once, now I have a hematologist, a doctor that specializes in blood. So I went in to see her recently, and she asked, she put in an order for some more blood work. So I went and got the test done, and some of my numbers came back abnormal. Like most of my numbers come back abnormal, but like there were 3 specific numbers that came back abnormal. So she's like, I want to do another blood test. So I went and gave more blood. And those numbers also came back kind of abnormal, but we also noticed that some of the stuff that might be related to my kidneys was a bit abnormal as well through just some of those numbers. So I hit up my kidney doctor, my nephrologist. I'm like, hey, would you mind taking a look at this? Let me know what your thoughts are. So he orders another blood test, which is just a CBC, and I got to go pee in a cup. Well, as he's ordering that, my blood doctor, my hematologist, just also ordered another round of blood tests. Hers were more intense, so I got those and not his, but all of the numbers were shared because it's the same hospital system. So this time my kidney numbers looked a little better, still a little wonky, but they looked better. But my red blood cell count was still up, my hemoglobin was up, and my hematocrit was up. So red blood cells, like your blood is made up of red blood cells, white blood cells, plasma, some other stuff, right? So your red blood cells are responsible for carrying oxygen, or one of their jobs anyways, responsible for carrying oxygen from your lungs to the rest of your body via hemoglobin. That's the protein in your blood that actually does the oxygen job. Also, my hematocrit was up. So, and all of that falls in line, right? If your red blood cell count goes up, your hemoglobin is likely going to go up. If you've got more red blood cells, you've got more hemoglobin. That's just how that works. But your hematocrit is kind of the ratio of red blood cells to the rest of the stuff that makes up your blood. So all of those 3 numbers were up. And while I was waiting, like I get test results through my portal very quickly, very, very quickly, and I love that. I also hate it for a number of reasons, but I love it because I can kind of see what's going on and have an idea of what's going on because I've got 8 years of historical data to compare to. So I look up what would cause red blood cell count to go up, hematocrit to go up, and hemoglobin to go up. What would cause those 3 to go up? And polycythemia vera came up. I'm like, okay, well, what's that? Oh, that's blood cancer. Neat. And And I was like, I, for my own reasons, I refuse to accept that I've got blood cancer at this point. With everything else going on, no, I deny that. I'm not going to do that. So I keep looking, and another reason that your red blood cell count might go up is hypoxia. And hypoxia is actually listed as a diagnosis in my medical records. So I was like, okay, let's figure out what would cause that. Like, hypoxia just means your body doesn't have enough oxygen doing its job in your body. So your body is then going to compensate by creating more red blood cells to help create more ways for more oxygen to get through your body, right? So after doing more research and more research and more Googling and more of this and more of that, I find out that there are polycythemia is just characterized by an overabundance of red blood cells in your bloodstream. Now, that is kind of the root word to what we're talking about here. Polycythemia just means too many red blood cells, effectively. That's the dumbed down version, but that's what we're going to go with. Now you can either have a prefix or a suffix on polycythemia. The suffix being Vera. Polycythemia vera is blood cancer, bone marrow cancer, causing too many red blood cells to be created as a result of cancer. However, there's also secondary polycythemia. And that just means something else in your body is wrong and is causing your body to likely not have enough oxygen in it. And as a result, your body's creating more red blood cells to try to get more oxygen to more places. Now, why is that a bad thing, right? More oxygen's more better, right? Well, yes and no. More oxygen is more better, but if your red blood cell count is too high, it can cause a thickening of the blood. Now, you've got millions and millions and millions of veins and capillaries, all of these ways for blood to get around your body. If your blood is too thick, it can't get through some of those tiny blood vessels and capillaries, which then causes more oxygen deprivation to the organs that are not able to get that because your blood's too thick, right? So that sucks, because now you're causing more oxygen deprivation to certain places in your body. Also, your blood being too thick as a result of red blood cells can also cause blood clots, which I've already got or had, where actually we've discovered that most of that is cleared up in recent imaging, but the likelihood of me having polycythemia vera very, very low. I've got all of the markers that say I've got secondary polycythemia. My initial thought, based on my historical data, the information that's in my charts, all of this stuff, was secondary polycythemia due to hypoxia. Now, I talked to my hematologist about this, and she's like, I don't necessarily think that, because you've been hypoxic for a long time, and this is relatively new, I don't think it's related to hypoxia. It's not to say that it's not contributing, but I don't think it's hypoxic, or you being hypoxic, that's causing the overabundance of red blood cells and all of this. So I managed to get in with my cardiologist because I couldn't get in with my nephrologist. That's my kidney doctor. It's all of my specialists and even my primary care physician want my kidney doctor to manage my blood pressure because of my chronic stage 3B kidney disease. They don't want, none of the other doctors want to deal with something that may cause further damage to my kidneys. So for the last few days, I've been trying to get a hold of my nephrologist, my kidney doctor. He must be on vacation or something because I can't get a hold of him. So I got a hold of my cardiologist, my heart doctor. I'm like, hey, dude, here's the thing. Here's what's going on. I've been keeping track of these numbers. It's bad. So I went in and saw him yesterday. Sorry, breeze closed the door. I was trying to get a good breeze going through here because it's hot. Anywho, so I talked to him yesterday, and he's like, look, here's the thing. Because of your underlying Wegener's, your granulomatosis with polyangiitis that's affecting your blood system, and you've already got chronic kidney disease, it's entirely possible that you've got one of two things. And I can only remember the name of one of them. It's like it could be that you've got stenosis, basically the main veins and arteries that go to your kidneys to take the dirty blood to your kidneys and the clean blood out of your kidneys. It could be that your granulomatosis with polyangiitis has caused a constriction of those blood vessels, and as a result, your blood pressure has gone up. That could be the issue. So I'm going to order some more imaging, another CT scan or CTA on your kidneys just to see if that's what's going on. He's like, however, it could also be that there's something going on inside your kidneys. So basically, inside your kidneys, you've got all of these filtration globules, modules, whatever you want to call them. Again, lots of big Latin words that I still can't pronounce. So inside your kidneys, you got millions and millions and millions of these little filtering nodules, and each one of those basically has a vein going in and a vein coming out to clean the blood. If one of those, the incoming or the outgoing, is constricted, that could be an issue. And your kidneys, like let's say your blood pressure is like 120/80, just hypothetical numbers here. Let's say your body's blood pressure is 120/80, you're a rock star, right? But your kidneys, as a result of all of this stuff going on down there, is like, hey, I'm getting a blood pressure of like 70/40. I'm going to secrete a hormone which will then cause the rest of your blood pressure to go up so that I can get more blood to me, and my blood pressure will go up to where it's supposed to be, right? It's the kidneys are trying to do what they need to do to survive, even though it's at the cost of everything else. So anyway, the doctors ordered a CTA to go through and look at my kidneys and all of that to see which of those two things it might possibly be. But we're thinking that it's entirely possible that the secondary polycythemia that I have, look, it may be partially being affected by the hypoxia, but it might also be a kidney condition like I've had a kidney condition for 8 years now, but this, because it's more of an acute thing, it's more of this has just spiked up recently, it very well could be a kidney issue causing my elevated blood pressure. It could also be causing the polycythemia. Like there's a number of things that could be going on here. So that's kind of what's going on with me. But like I said earlier, like when I got all of these results and I started Googling, it's like, well, it could be blood cancer or it could be hypoxia. And luckily for me, it was somewhere in between. The problem is when you Google polycythemia, like at the top of the Google search result is polycythemia is a result of too many blood cells. But if you scroll down, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic, all of these reputable sources, they don't say polycythemia. They don't say secondary polycythemia. Every result after the top is polycythemia vera. And if you don't know to look up secondary polycythemia or what is polycythemia versus polycythemia vera to find out that secondary polycythemia is a thing, it's easy for your brain to be like, oh, this could be cancer, because that's how the internet works, right? They give you the worst case scenario only to find out it's a bruise, right? The results we're getting on search engines lately are garbage. So I can absolutely see how Boogie may have misinterpreted his doctor saying you've got polycythemia. And rather than clarifying that, he Googled polycythemia, and polycythemia vera kept showing up over and over and over and over and over again, right? But here's the thing. Here's where I want to talk about this Boogie situation a little bit in the podcast that he was on the other night. Polycythemia vera can be basically confirmed with a blood test. He shouldn't necessarily need to go in for a super, super painful, invasive blood marrow sample to see if that's what's going on. When my hematologist asked for that extra round of blood tests because she was concerned about something, she was looking for what's called a JAK2 mutation. And a JAK2 mutation is prevalent in almost all polycythemia vera patients. Anybody who's got that polycythemia cancer, almost everybody who's got that also has a JAK2 mutation. So they should be able to do an extended blood test and look for a JAK2 mutation to find out whether or not polycythemia vera is a possibility. Going straight to a bone marrow biopsy is super invasive and super painful. And it's entirely possible he knows that and was looking for more sympathy. I don't know. I don't know Boogie. Boogie doesn't know me. I don't have access to his medical records, but I can tell you that I have been diagnosed with polycythemia, but it was called something else that I'll put up on the screen here. And I believe that the reason the doctors called it something else is because this something else and polycythemia are kind of used interchangeably. But when you Google polycythemia vera comes up as the primary search result. Whereas if you look up this whatever the hell it's called, it gives you the explanation of what it is rather than immediately jumping to the cancer diagnosis. So I actually appreciate my doctors putting in the alternate term for polycythemia because it's easier to look at that up and find out what the causes are and what the possible treatments are versus, oh, you probably got blood cancer. And I'm willing to bet that if Boogie's doctors had put in this whatever it is as the diagnosis instead, it would have come up as secondary polycythemia, and that secondary being to hypoxia or whatever other medical issues Boogie's got. I think a lot of this could have been avoided, and I feel like it's entirely possible that because of that, Boogie has taken some risks. He's taken on some things that he shouldn't have in order to cover possible medical bills and that sort of thing. Again, this is all speculation from my experience with all of the elevated red blood cells, all of the hemoglobin, the hematocrit, and wondering why, and then Googling and finding out that blood cancer is a possibility if you've got this. There are easier ways to find out if it's blood cancer or not, rather than going straight to the blood marrow or the bone marrow biopsy, because those are super invasive and super painful. But anyway, my point is, my hematologist is working on figuring things out. My cardiologist is working on figuring things out. When my nephrologist gets back, he's going to work on figuring things out. My hematologist has also made a referral to Jewish National Hospital up in Denver, because they specialize in heart and lung and all of this stuff. They're the best in the country for that, and that's where I've got a referral in now, to hopefully get more information about what's really going on and the best ways to treat it. But my polycythemia is secondary due to either the kidney disease or the hypoxia. I don't have polycythemia vera. I don't have bone marrow or blood cancer here. But I can understand how somebody who's getting a lot of bad news might absolutely translate the two incorrectly through just being freaked out. And I'm not trying to bully. I'm not trying to defend. I'm just saying I can understand how somebody who's already freaked out and going through a lot might transpose the two and make an incorrect assumption, and then get in too deep, make a lot of wrong choices, and then decide I'm not going to admit I was wrong, because then it would unravel everything I've tried to do, and I'm a liar either way, so let's just stick with the story as it is. I think that's what's going on. Honestly, I hope I'm right. I hope that that's what's going on. Polycythemia vera would suck to have. The cancer obviously sucks to have. So I hope Boogie's situation is similar to mine, that it's secondary to something else. But that's my update as far as what's going on with me. Hopefully I'll know more about what's going on here in the next few weeks. I'll try to keep you guys updated as we go. And hopefully, as I'm starting to feel better and we're getting on top of this, my migraines will go away, my pins and needles, body pains will go away, and I will feel more capable of creating some more in-depth videos on both this channel and, of course, on the primary channel, the main channel. So thank you guys for hanging out with me for a few minutes today. I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you in the next video.